Welcome back to the podcast, Virgil Herring. Virgil, thanks again for coming back on the podcast. You were the first three-peat here. Really appreciate that. And to be honest, your podcasts always do so well, so I'm always happy to have you on here, and you always have some pretty interesting things to say.
Well, it's an honor. It's an honor to be here, buddy. Thanks for inviting me on for my three-peat.
That's right, and hopefully more to come. I really wanted to dive in and learn a little bit more about your wine venture. You're always talking about it. You always do very interesting things with wine and the Ryder Cup of wine. And I'd love for you to describe that process a little bit more. And then I want to talk a little bit about golf, high level golfers versus more recreational golfers, and even achieved and accomplished club golfers, and kind of what your sessions look like when you're working with these golfers and how they might differ or how might they be almost identical. So really interested to learn more about that process. But first, tell us a bit more about Triad Cellars and the vineyard and the wine, and kind of how all this started, and kind of where you're at with that.
So the Ryder Cup of wine I've been doing now for 8 years. Done 90. I've got my 93rd coming up on Tuesday in Punta Mita, Mexico. My first international Ryder Cup of wine. What it really comes down to is I love golf. It's my life, but I love wine, and I love what putting people, food, and wine together always does, which is it opens up community. It's one of the 5 things I think that you can't have a bad time doing. I've never had a glass of wine and had a miserable time, much like chocolate chip cookies, ice cream, French fries, and pizza. Can't have a bad time doing any of those either, right? So the Ryder Cup of wine is essentially, we blind taste 3 to 5 different varietals, one from America, one from Europe. So they don't know what they know it's a Sauvignon Blanc. They know it's a Cabernet Sauvignon. They know it's a Pinot Noir, whatever. But they don't know which one is which. And most people have never done a true blind tasting before. And then I just tell a story. There's some interesting parallels between American wine entering the elite wine world back in 1976 in the Judgment of Paris, and the Ryder Cup shifting from Great Britain and Ireland to being all of Europe, and that entered Seve Ballesteros, and Seve Ballesteros essentially changed the course of the Ryder Cup, and they happened essentially at the same time. So the French wine has always been the dominant piece, and the American Ryder Cup team was always the dominant piece. But in competition and putting them head to head, blind, you got an idea of, how close they are together. So in 76, Stag Sleep Wine Cellars won the Judgment in Paris, putting Napa Valley at the pinnacle of Cabernet Sauvignon and Bordeaux blend style wines. And Seve Ballesteros ushered in the power of Europe. And I believe since Seve joined, America has only won 4 Ryder Cups since Seve joined. The Europeans, it was all of Europe. So that turns into awesome fun. I give not just golf lessons, but I use the characteristics of the grape to either give life lessons, business lessons, or golf lessons. And it's a storyteller time. I get a chance to tell stories, connect people. And one of my mantras is, touch people's heart before you ask for their hand. So I try to make it something that makes people feel good. And coming off of COVID, people were really starving for human connection and like-minded feelings that you could go somewhere for a couple hours with strangers and walk out with 15, 20 new friends. Yeah. I'm trying to cultivate that. So fast forward, I do my TED Talk. My TED Talk lands me into a very different world, so to speak. My agent / partner in all of this is Dave Meltzer. Dave Meltzer is Jerry Maguire. All right. So the most famous sports executive of all time is the person that finds my TED Talk compelling and wants to do fun things. So fast. Now I got all of his contacts. So here I go. I've done a bunch of cool Ryder Cups of wine, but now I get to do it on the 18th fairway at Pebble Beach during the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Mm-hmm. Well, then that's a different upgrade. Then factor in the person who's going to be providing the wine is the former owner of wine.com. So now that's a whole different level of wine. So that gentleman, his name is David Harmon, super guy. He owns wineries now. He basically got out of selling wine.com and has his own vineyard, and he's fractionally sells it. And so one of the cool things is, for me being out there and doing this Ryder Cup of wine, is that we worked out an agreement so I could be an owner of the vineyard. And so the Pinot Noir, which has already won many awards, including the National Pinot Noir Challenge out in California, that was unbelievable. I didn't realize when we were doing the tasting that he was doing this. This was my wine, and I didn't find that out until later, and it was so humbling to see when I'm just thinking it's blind, right? And watching how everybody's reacting to the Pinot, but the Cabernet Reserve, which is a Howell Mountain Reserve, is spellbinding. It was so good. And so when he put his arm around me and told me that this is my wine, I didn't even know what to say. It was so, as a wine lover and somebody who's always dreamed of doing something like this, it was incredible. Yeah. So in combination with how well the wine event went, and my love for storytelling and just making, I'm a coach, right? So I'm just always trying to make people's lives better than when I touch it than it was before I met them. So it's been really fun. So the Triad has got a lot of things to it. So I've been with this lady for over a year now. Her name's Allison Lowry. She's really changed my life in many ways. And we each have 2 kids. So that kind of creates a little triangle that we stacked on top of it. And my favorite band is Tool. And Tool, one of Tool's songs is Triad. So I kind of put all the things that I love into the same piece that doesn't have golf in it, but it's got my wine, the people that I love and care about the most, and the band that really moves me from day to day, which is Tool. Put them all together, and it's something that really matters to me. And like I said, the Pinot Noir is amazing. I have a Cabernet Sauvignon and a Reserve, and all of them are fantastic. And of all the things that matter to me, is my brand is about quality. And I was shocked to beyond belief, really, at the quality of it, not knowing that it was mine, and now to know that that's what's going to be under, in the bottle underneath my label. It's pretty humbling.
That's wonderful. That's quite the story. So how many different wines are actually being tasted that what ended up being yours comes out on top?
So this particular one at Pebble Beach, due to some, just how many events are going on simultaneously at this party for the Players Club, I only did 3, but I usually do 5. So it's usually like Sauvignon Blanc or Chardonnay, a Pinot Noir, an alternative red, could be a Rhone Valley, could be a Zinfandel, could be anything, could be a Grenache or, something. And then Cabernet Sauvignon or a Bordeaux blend. And then it usually ends with a champagne. And, that usually comes with a dessert, right? So everything has like a little tapas or an appetizer that's designed to go with the food, a good pairing of it. So you have basically 5 little appetizers or tapas on top of a dessert. And, that's where you get the chemistry, right? The human chemistry and then the chemistry of the food and wine together. It's magical, and it never ceases to amaze me, and it never ceases to amaze the people that go, as they think they're going in there. Why is this golf pro doing a wine event? What are we going to talk about? This can't be, and especially if the wives are going to this event, which they almost always do, and most of them don't play golf, they're quick to be like, oh God, here we go, another event where we got to listen to golf. And I touch them with something a little bit different. And when you put all those factors together, it's magic. And it's really, although I know what I do for a living, I know that's the most important part. This is my second favorite spinoff of my career. And I just love it.
Now, feel free to decline, but is there one story that you tell there, even if you summarized it quickly, that you think would be surprising, that would somehow connect to wine and what you're doing there, that you like to tell, that kind of surprises some of the guests?
Well, I would probably say every single story that I've told is surprising because they have no idea where I'm going to be coming from.
Sure.
But, when I think of, like Viognier, which is a white wine, all right? Nobody really ever hears of it. So why should somebody owns a vineyard that has Viognier in it, why should he be trying to make the best wine in the world that he can when it's not going to be picked up compared to Cabernet, Bordeaux blends, Merlot, Pinot Noir, whatever? It's probably the 14th or 15th most common grape, right? So nobody's even thinking about it. And that leads me to a story about why should the golfers, why should people on the PGA Tour try to be the best that they can be when they can't be as good as Tiger or Scotty or Rory? And that leads me to a really important story. In 2009 at the PGA Championship, Tiger Woods had never lost when he held the final round lead. And Y.E. Yang, who's Y.E. Yang? Nobody ever even heard of Y.E. Yang at this particular point. So why should Y.E. Yang even believe that he could win? Because it's Tiger. Well, what we don't understand, and it goes down to this, self-image, you can't outperform your self-image. So it's basically all of God's given talents given to you minus the interference you put in front of it. Right? So on that fateful day, Sunday morning, very early, Tiger Woods got a phone call and he found out that his life was going to change, and it was going to change in a very negative way in quite a hurry. So he plays that final round recognizing that it's about ready to crumble. He acted very weird that day. He didn't have his normal stuff, and Y.E. Yang wins. It's impossible, but I play it like this. If we say, just for simple math purposes, that God gave Tiger Woods $1 million worth of talent, and he gave Y.E. Yang $650,000 worth of talent, so a lot of talent, but not $1 million, right? Well, how could Y.E. Yang ever win? Especially if you factor that into a 4-day mathematics. Right. Well, if you let's just say that Tiger Woods woke up on Sunday with $750,000 worth of interference, and Y.E. Yang, well, he has to play with Tiger, and he doesn't know about Tiger's life, and he's in the final group for the first time ever in a major. He has a chance to win his first major. Let's just say that's $200,000 worth of interference. Well, going into the final round, Y.E. Yang had access to $450,000 worth of talent, and Tiger only had $250,000 worth of talent. And that's why you should practice as hard as you can every day, because you never know when it's your turn.
Right. Yeah. And
that's usually where I'll start, because that is a very important message to live in your life. You know, if you're in the computer industry and you feel like you have no chance of going up against Apple or Microsoft, and you let that affect how you show up day to day, you're not a winner. You're not a champion. Just because you're not that person doesn't mean that you can't be the best that you can be. And I'm always trying to get my players to be prepared, because the most important thing is like, it's okay to not win, but you want to shake the hand of the person that beat you, not have to look in the mirror to see who beat you. And of all the things you could ever ask is to leave it all on the floor, leave it all out on the golf course to the best of your ability and not win. First of all, you get a chance to learn what you got to do to get better. But that's what we're all here for, is this spirit of competition and the adventure of putting yourself out there and seeing how far you can take it. And when you tell stories like that, people can relate any part of that to any part of their life that they're struggling with. And it gives them something to feel good about. And I like to start all my Ryder Cups of Wine with one of 3 messages that are powerful like that, so that it sets the table for where we're going for the rest of the evening. Because people are thinking, oh, he's going to give me a chipping lesson. Nope. I'm going to tell a story that can relate to you, that is much bigger than golf. It's related to golf, but it's much, much bigger than golf. And if you get 5 life lessons like that, professional lessons like that, that aren't even remotely talking about how to hit the ball further, straighter, putt better, what have you, man, you just feel good. And as the messenger, I need to hear the stories too. I need to hear that. Why do I prepare myself to be the best that I can be every day? Is because I don't ever want to be in a situation where I get a chance to go up against Butch Harmon and I'm not prepared. Do I think it's possible? Do I think it's possible that I would lose to him? Yep. Do I think it's possible that I could beat him, so to speak? Yep. That's why I prepare, because I never know when it's going to be my day. And if you aren't prepared, if you don't have a place setting at your table for opportunity, when she knocks and she doesn't look like she's been invited, she goes to another place. And that's what I'm always trying to set the table for.
Yeah, well said. I think another interesting example of a similar story recently was Nashville's very own Blades Brown walking down on a Sunday next to Scotty, right?
Yeah.
And there's a young golfer who, different outcome this time, but similar opportunity, right? And there he is with some of the greatest in the game. Not Tiger, but in this case now Scotty.
You know, and I would argue that maybe that was even better for Blades than if it was Tiger, because Scotty is so kind, and he was so aware of like what a great story this is, this kid, and he really kind of encouraged him along. Tiger wouldn't have encouraged him along; he just would have stepped on his head and given him a lesson, so to speak. So Blades got a chance to watch the best player since Tiger mathematically disassemble a golf course right in front of him. And Blades got a chance to see what he's got to do to get better. And of all the things that, and Blades is a hell of a kid and a very smart kid. That lesson, that round of golf is going to pay huge dividends for him for a long time. And I couldn't be happier for him. I think that he took an unbelievable risk to go out there at age 17 and with no status and just turn down college and just go play professional golf. I'm like, whew. But man, let's think about this. It came down to one putt, the last event of the year. If he makes it, he gets his card. If he doesn't, it's back to the Monday qualifying world. He's got an 8-footer, boom, right in the back of the cup. That lets us know who we have coming our way. Blades Brown's going to be a force to reckon with. I don't teach him, but I've been around him because he was Jack Harrington's 4-ball partner in all the USGA events, and he's just just an absolutely phenomenal kid. And I'm a big fan. I'd really want him to do well. It's just like, I was just like, oh man, what a huge risk this is. But like, that's what I'm talking about. You have to be willing to hop on the ride for adventure, because we only get one ride on this place. And you might as well just go ahead and say yes and figure it out. Because if he didn't make it and it turns into like a 6-year event that didn't pan out, think of all the cool things you did and all the fun things you got a chance to learn from, and all the people that you've met that are going to allow you greater things in the future. So that opening up the mind and being open to adventure is really important to me.
Yeah, fair enough. He's got a lot of great examples already of kind of living and doing things in a similar way that you like to describe and talk about in these different events.
Yeah,
he's definitely out there doing it. It's very cool. Now, when it comes to the access to these stories with you and the Ryder Cup of wine and making it happen, what sort of opportunities are like a good fit for you to go out there and do things like this?
Well, the one that I'm doing in Punta Mita, right? That's the members of Punta Mita that are hosting it. The Players Club brought me to Pebble Beach.
Wow.
Most of the time, it's like I did one in New York City with a financial institution. It was kind of like a thank you gift to all of his employees, all the high achieving, right? So it's those events. It's like, do you love wine? Does it matter to you to have a kind of evening where you're drinking 5 different types of wines from 2 different countries? That's 10 wines, and have the food. And does that matter to you? If that fits into your business profile of how you'd like to share great times with people that you care about, one way or the other, whether employees or clients, that's who seeks it out.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Well, it sounds like a lot of fun. Your stories, you can find them. The story of Tiger, they're out there. You have some stories that are maybe a little bit more personal to you, players that you've worked on. When it comes to that sort of thing or that side of things, when you're working with high-level golfers, professional golfers, college golfers, Korn Ferry Tour, what does that process look like when you're working with golfers like that, if we get into kind of the golf performance side of things? And how does that differ from maybe even accomplished golfers, like potentially even scratch golfers at clubs here in Nashville? Is there anything that you intentionally do different with these golfers when you're designing what you're going to look at and kind of how you're going to work with them versus club golfers?
Well, the first thing you better do is you better recognize that, excuse me, this player's making a living off this game. So you better be really sure about what you're talking about before you open your mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I ask a lot of questions. Now, if this is a player that I've coached since they were 14 and now they're on TV, that is a very different scenario than me picking up a tour player that I have not ever seen before, who's already on tour, already very established, and he's struggling. So that requires an interviewing, right? And it would be really helpful if I had data. Most of these tour players have their own data specialist who's providing them all the analytics for their game and the golf course they're getting ready to play. My job is to try to find the low-hanging fruit, because sometimes it's not even obvious. They're just struggling. And so I'm always trying to figure out, like, what is it that I can do to help you immediately? And, whether it's psychological or whether it's physical, my job is to help identify it and then ease the pain of it by helping them just come to terms with the fact that this is what the answer is, and now we can move forward. They're so supremely talented. Like, there is a very, very large gap between like a Korn Ferry Tour number 70 on the tour and your club champion at any club in this town.
Yeah,
is a very, very big difference. Yeah. And even though if it doesn't look like it, but here, like I always say, like, this is what happened. I won the club championship at Hillwood in 2005, and I shot 5 under. And the club, the members there were very kind, and they put together a reasonable amount of money for me to give up teaching to go back out and try to play. Wow. And I'm like, what? Like, you have no idea. If I go out and play really good, which I did, and I just say I shot 5 under for 2 days, and Brant goes out and plays really good, and Brant's like 14 under through 2 days. Mm-hmm. From that first look, it doesn't look like I don't belong. Oh, wow, Virgil's 5 under. Brant's really playing good. He's at 14. But if you double that, because that's a 2-day, that's a 4-day event. Now Brant's 28 under, and I'm at 10 under, and it doesn't look nearly as compelling. And if Brant doesn't win, I'm even further away. And that's the thing. It's like the difference between number 10 and number 110 might be less than a stroke a day on the PGA Tour. It might be like 0.78. So that means that guy's just making one more 9-footer and hits one more green in regulation. That's it. Yeah. Well, how do you draw an hour or two lesson out of that information? Well, that's not easy, because that putt might be just a little bit of luck. You might be doing everything right, and it might be God telling you it's not your turn. It's Steve's turn, and that, hitting one more green in regulation. I mean, what's that mean? Do we have to look at, are you always short and right? Are you always long and left? Do we have a nervous, competitive manipulation in your golf swing that shows up under the gun that we have to address? Because one of the hardest things for people to understand is, like, I'm not really trying to fix the guy who shows up at my studio, and I'm not trying to fix the guy who's playing with his buddies. I'm trying to fix the guy inside of you that when you get nervous, somebody else shows up. Right. And like, why do you work on your game so hard? So that you can compete in fun events, club championships, member guests, what have you. Well, that member guest for the 10 handicap is the Masters for Jack Harrington. It's what he looks forward to his entire year, is this event. Yeah. Well, he gets nervous just like anybody else. What goes on inside of his body is real, and it is exactly the same as the best players in the world. So who shows up with that? Oh man, all of a sudden I start swaying. Well, it usually is they start aiming more to the right. The ball gets back in their stance. The club goes inside. Excuse me. And then you got all these ramifications of bad aim, bad setup. And now your golf swing, which is a very well-oiled machine, is trying to manipulate the motion to somehow find the golf ball, which is not in the position it's supposed to be in for one reason or another. So that's what really gets interesting. Yeah. Is I'm trying to figure out who shows up when things go awry, and it's not the comfortable guy. It's the uncomfortable guy. And that would be the same for a 10 handicap scratch golfer, college player, PGA Tour winner. Who am I fixing? I'm fixing that guy.
How do you try to go about identifying that, or how do you put them in a position where this starts to reveal itself? Do you have to probably in the interview process, or when you're finding and going through the data, based off what they're telling you, what happens on the back nine when they're playing really well versus what was happening on the front? Is it just from trying to look at videos when they're in high pressure situations, or can you actually do something there that puts them in a situation where it'll kind of reveal itself?
That's a great question because each one is as unique as possible, really. I would
Mm.
probably say I do an interview process, but when you're nervous, do you feel like you swing faster than normal or slower than normal? Faster than normal.
Faster usually, yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I'm going to ask them in front of me to like, how far to hit your 7-iron? I'm like 173. I said, what if you got 178? And it's what are you hitting with on the last hole? You're going to hit 7-iron. Show me a full bore 7-iron. And that's the closest thing that I have. I want to see what they do at maximum speed because that's generally speaking the guy inside of you, the girl inside of you hitting the most important shot coming down the stretch is its full rip because you got so much adrenaline going through you.
Smart.
So that's one of the things that I'm looking for. But most of the time I can see the glitch. They're so talented that their right hand or their left hand can save it, but you can't save it for 4 straight hours. And then I can, it's easier to see that way. I know the things that most of the tour players are very open to change because they know they have to. As soon as they find out that something's not right, they have to be all in on that change. And that's a trait of the very best at anything is that they're quick to change course once they find out the course they're on is not working, where the next level of player is afraid that they'll go backward if they try to get better and they get scared and they just kind of stay the same and they just become the 16-year-old that won 15 junior golf tournaments that never evolved to win anything more than that because the things that he needed to do to go to the next level were too terrifying.
Gotcha. Yeah, smart. I think it's really clever of how you go about trying to find it, even though you can kind of see it for the most part, but just have them take a full speed swing. What characteristics show up when they're trying to create that force and that speed? Yeah, clever.
I think another thing that just because what's different now than what it was 8 years ago is like TrackMan has changed the game, man. Like I have 290 golf courses. So there are certain shots that like if you go to Quail Hollow and you go to it's the 16th hole, like the 224-yard par 3 with water left and not an easy up and down to the right. And you're telling me you want to be a great player? Well, we're going to hit 10 balls from 224 into that green and show me how good you are. Man, I will see it all right there. Right? As soon as you see all the trouble. And that's not real, but it's the closest thing to real you can have without being real. And it puts the brain in a very similar competitive mindset. And now I'm pretty close to seeing who you are. So I can, like the 18th tee shot at Quail Hollow is maybe the hardest tee shot in the PGA Tour. But I will find some shots that are definitely difficult, but kind of, get you fired up to hit the shot. There's, Teeth of the Dog down in Dominican Republic is also on TrackMan. And they got some awesome par 3s that kind of hang out over the ocean. And I can move the pin to the left side and have people hit wedge shots to tight corridors that really matter with a lot of penalty. Like, how good of a wedge player are you? Oh, I'm an awesome wedge player. Oh, good. Let's go here and check it out. Here you are, 93 yards on the 7th hole here at Teeth of the Dog. And that little piece of land is just hanging out over the ocean. And you got 93 yards. Attack, baby. Let's see how many you get. And then they missed the green 4 times. And I'm like, yeah, well, okay, so what you believe you're good. You don't know. And of all the things, that's really the most important thing that I try to pass on to everybody is there are 3 phases. You pick up the game and you like it. Now you hope that you can be good at it. Then you get instruction and you learn how to do it right. As soon as you learn how to do it right, you believe you can do it. You can be good at this. And some people with a little bit of luck can win in the believe state. The largest gap in all of sports is moving from I believe I can to I know I can, because that means you've now done it so much that you can't do it wrong. There's a difference between learning how to do it right and doing it so well and so precisely that you can't get it wrong. That's a professional. And my job is to encourage, to bring out the professional in you. Whether you're good enough to play on TV or not is completely regardless of how I go about trying to extract the best version of you.
Yeah.
And that's how I go about it. I attack it in that way. And then I'm just trying to get you to know as much as you possibly can. And the more you know, the more you can trust that you can do it when it matters most.
Yeah. Smart. I think it's like Alex Hormozy talks about like self-confidence, and it's not just you convincing yourself that you're good enough. It's you've done it enough times that you've proven to yourself that this is you and who you are, and the difference between just telling yourself versus living it and then being it. So clever. I like those are smart, and using TrackMan to be able to put yourself in situations to mentally task the golfer in front of you,
and get the data that goes with it, which is even more profound.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's a big deal right there. It's just like you put them under duress, and then when they're just hitting balls on just general TrackMan with the video on, their path is 1-7 to the right, but all of a sudden now they got to rip it, and now they got to make sure they hit it far enough. It's a 4-iron, and you can't miss it left because it's in the water. You can't miss it right because it's an impossible up and down. Oh, that path shot out to 6 pretty quick. Yeah. Oh, so there's a decel. There's a little bit of fear coming into the ball. The hips stall, rise up a little bit, shifts the path out to the right, usually leaves it out to the right. You miss 2 or 3 shots in a row to the right. You follow that up with, well, I'm just not releasing it. Then it turns into a raging hook, and then you're lost because you don't realize that the pressure has like stalled your hip action out because you're bracing for a high speed collision versus making a golf swing that the golf club just moves through in a circle. And that's getting in your head right there.
Clever. Awesome. They're very good. All things that kind of sound like me. So I'll have to look into that a little bit more. One more thing I want to ask you. You had mentioned that the members raised some funds for you to go back and try to go pro. I have to ask, did you know they were doing this, or did they just present it to you? And then did you have to tell them that they don't quite understand? Like, how did that conversation go?
It was a member called me maybe 3 weeks after. I had no idea. And I taught his daughter, and he's like, Virgil, we really love for you to consider this. And I'm like, I appreciate it. It's very kind of you to think of me like that, but you guys have no idea. I mean, like I said, Brant's probably 5 a day better than me. And that means I'm losing by 20 after 4 days. And if he didn't win and he finished 30th, man, I am so far out of it. It's just not even close. But for a lot of members, the people that love the game, but they're like a 7 handicap, and they go out and watch me hit it 340 off the tee and shoot 69. Well, they think that's what they see on TV. And Hillwood Country Club is definitely not set up like a PGA Tour event. And it's a golf course that I play 1,000 times. So have all of this course knowledge. All of those things don't happen on tour. Every week you're playing a strange golf course that's set up as hard as it can possibly be set up. And it's not even close. I didn't go into great detail. I just thanked them for their generosity. But I'm a coach. And like, I'll put it like this. The difference between knowing and believing is you can watch it from me. As soon as I could feel that I was making the right putting stroke or hitting the right chip or pitch or making the golf swing that I wanted to make, as soon as I could do it, even 10 times, I wanted to go play. I wanted to go play it and see what happened. So I never burnt it in to a place where I couldn't do it wrong. I did it till I could do it right, and then I wanted to go play with it. That was what my mentality, I thought that was the right way. Not knowing, and nobody in my family's ever played golf, but that just made sense to me. It turned out to be not correct. But what's the difference? It's like when I walked onto the driving range, which is now literally going to be 22 years ago, on Augusta National with Brant, I knew walking onto that driving range that there was nothing that was going to happen that I don't have the answer to immediately. I was super calm. Nothing's going to get under my skin. Why? Because I've seen millions of golf swings, and many of those have been from the best player.
Yeah.
So I know the pattern of motion. I can see the pattern. So I walk onto the driving range as a coach, and I get a chance to do it again this year. In 4 weeks, I'm going again. I walk in there. I don't even get worried or nervous because I know why. I've put the reps in as a golf coach infinitely more than I did as a player. Now, I think I got lucky because golf teaching forced me to just keep watching swings. That's what I'm there for.
Yeah.
Golf as a player, I think my ADHD really, like, I couldn't stay there and just beat balls. I felt like I had to go put it to the test. And what it really comes down to, Bubba Watson did that. So what's that say? I just wasn't good enough. And that's really what it comes down to. There's people that have that way and they've become the greatest players of all time. It clearly showed that I didn't have the talent to be able to do it that way. Doesn't mean I didn't have the talent if I'd have done it another way, but I didn't go that way. Yeah. So I have to forgive that because, man, I did try my best. I just didn't know the importance of doing it until you couldn't do it wrong.
See, smart. Appreciate the insight. I would have loved to see if you had went for it and tried to go back. I think you can still do it. But maybe you understand a little bit better than I do. But it's always fun to see folks around here playing really well and doing things like that and trying that. The Ryder Cup of Wine is a fantastic example of that, just in a different instance. So really excited about that. 2 questions for you. One is, what's the most exciting thing coming up in 2026? Is it going down to Mexico and doing the Ryder Cup of Wine there?
That's pretty exciting. But if you love golf, the idea that you're going to be inside the ropes at Augusta National with a player that you've been coaching since he was 6 years old, it doesn't get much better than that. And then you get a chance to do it again at the U.S. Open at Shinnecock Hills. So you're gonna be with a kid you've taught since he was 6 years old, who's now one of the top amateur players in the world, likely going to turn professional here very soon. And you're going to go do that on 2 of the greatest golf courses on the planet, side by side with him. Man, it doesn't get much better than that. And I'm very blessed because both my sons are, one's playing college golf at University of Tennessee Martin right now. The other one's getting ready to go to Florida Southern, which is a massive powerhouse in golf. And to know that my kids love the game, they're competing, they're going after it. I have my own career, and I'm very blessed to be able to enjoy that. But to be able to share something as a coach with a kid who's been dreaming about this since he was literally in kindergarten, which he had colored pictures, crayon pictures of him holding the green jacket when he was 5 years old. Man, it's pretty powerful. All the things that he's done thinking about being a Masters champion since he was 5. I'm going to be there when he's 19 years old to go through that. If you're a coach, that doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, we'll be watching, rooting for sure. Last thing, how do we get some of your wine?
So basically, if you just follow, you can contact me through my cell, or you can go on my social medias and just DM me, and then I can have it sent to you.
Very cool, awesome. All right, well, exciting stuff. You got a lot going on this year that we'll be tuning into and kind of watching on your socials too, to see how everything goes. Thanks for coming on the podcast. This is all really good information. Very excited about Triad Cellars and kind of where that's headed, and Ryder Cup of Wine. You got some really cool things happening with your students. Thanks for the insights, Virgil. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me on, buddy. I look forward to seeing you soon.